Portland is on fire. Portland's been on fire for years.
Using the National Guard this way is illegal. It is unlawful.
I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that.
You cannot use military force for domestic law enforcement purposes.
We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
He's threatening to call in and has called in the National Guard to descend on cities like Chicago, like Portland, just as he did in Los Angeles, and is threatening other cities like San Francisco.
U.S. President Donald Trump said he was considering invoking the Insurrection Act to justify deploying federal troops to Portland, Oregon, after a federal court temporarily blocked his efforts to send National Guard forces into the city. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump described Portland is on fire and compared ongoing protests there to an insurrection. He suggested he might use the 1807 Insurrection Act, a law that allows presidents to deploy the military domestically if local and state officials continued to resist federal involvement.
And when judges give us rulings that, you don't have to do it, Portland is on fire. Portland's been on fire for years, and not so much saving it. We have to save something else, because I think that's all insurrection. I really think that's really criminal insurrection. So I appreciate the question. These are unsafe places. We're going to make them safe. So you see what's going on in Memphis. Not pretty, but you know what? We're doing a pretty job, because it's going to be a very safe place in a little while. And the people of Memphis are so happy that we're there. And the people of Chicago. So you have black women with MAGA hats on in Chicago, all over the place. They want the Guard to come in, or they don't care who comes in. They just want to be safe. And they really don't care. There was one woman, and she was great today. She said, you know what? I don't care if it's the National Guard, the Army, the Marines, the Air Force. I don't care who comes in, as long as we're safe. And that's the way most of the public feels. We're going to make Chicago really great again, and we're going to stop this crime. Then we're going to go to another one, and we're going to go city by city. We're going to have safe cities. And it was so great that we started with our nation's capital, one of the worst. I mean, so many people, every week, somebody was killed. They'd come from Iowa, they'd come from Indiana. They want to see the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial. They want to see something, and they'd get shot. And you'd call their parents, I'm sorry, but your son is dead. And they go, what do you mean he's dead? Came to Washington, D.C. Not anymore. That's not happening anymore. We have a safe place. We have a safe capital. It's as safe as we have probably almost just about in the country. And if you look back 6 months ago, 7 months ago, this was a death trap. You look back during the Biden, I mean, what they did, how badly they managed things. And almost all of these cities, most of these cities are Democrat-run. And we don't care, Democrat, Republican, we're going to make them safe. So we have to save Chicago. It's very important. And you can't have a governor getting up and saying it's good when 11 people were shot over a weekend. What?
The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary. But we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
The Justice Department confirmed that 128 arrests had been made in Portland since June, amid protests over the administration's immigration policies. Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, also warned that Los Angeles was the prototype, and Chicago and Portland are the next testing grounds, criticizing Trump's plan to deploy National Guard troops city by city.
Chicago, Illinois, being attacked, a whole apartment building, by ICE agents, some descending from Black Hawk helicopters, others battering down doors. It involved zip tying children, some of them terrified and naked and screaming. This was happening in an American city. And now the president is threatening to make it even worse. He's threatening to call in and has called in the National Guard to descend on cities like Chicago, like Portland, just as he did in Los Angeles, and is threatening other cities like San Francisco. Let's be clear. Using the National Guard this way is illegal. It is unlawful. It cannot be done consistent with our law and Constitution. You cannot use military force for domestic law enforcement purposes. You cannot use it in the means in which the Trump administration is continuing to use it and threatening to deploy it elsewhere. The playbook was Los Angeles. We saw this earlier this year in Los Angeles, the deployment of California's own National Guard over the objection of the governor, over the objection of the mayor of Los Angeles, used against our own citizens. It was struck down by a lower court, although that lower court order was held in abeyance by the Supreme Court of the United States. And now that misuse of the military is being used elsewhere. In fact, in Los Angeles, not only were the National Guard not even necessary, not even useful, but the president declared they were successful even before they arrived. And of course, they were taken away from more important missions, like the military mission our Marines have, who were deployed to Los Angeles, or other efforts that the California National Guard ought to be used for, like dealing with natural disasters. This is, of course, part of what the president was talking about when he spoke to generals last week and admirals and told them that he was going to use the military to go after the enemy within, that he was going to use American cities as military training grounds. Now, what are we doing about this? What can be done about this rampant illegality that is causing so much harm? Litigation is our most effective remedy. And in fact, when Oregon's own National Guard was threatened to be used against Oregon's own city of Portland, Oregon authorities sued and won in federal court. Federal District Judge Karen Immergut issued a scathing opinion which discussed how we are a country of constitutional law, not martial law. She said that the representations made by the government were, quote, untethered to facts. And she went on to quote James Madison, one of our founders, who said this about the misuse of the military. The means of defense against foreign danger have always been the instruments of tyranny at home. Now, when the judge in Oregon ruled that Oregon's National Guard could not be used against Oregon's own citizens on the basis of things that were untethered to fact, the president and the administration tried to do an end run around that ruling by ordering the deployment of the California National Guard to Oregon over the objection of California's governor, over the objection of Oregon's governor, and then additionally tried to order Texas National Guard troops, hundreds of them, to Oregon based on this false claim of an insurrection or rebellion. The court in Oregon, Judge Immergut, expanded her order to prevent the deployment of other states' National Guard as an end run around her earlier order. So we're going to continue litigating against this abuse of the military. It is hard to describe just how dangerous this really is when the President of the United States is using military force against our own citizens, when he's attempting to use the National Guard from one state with one willing governor against another state. Are we really going to be turning state against state now in the president's war on the American people? Does Texas Governor Abbott really want to deploy Texas National Guard against the will of the governors in Oregon or in Illinois and risk some future president ordering the National Guard of other states to go to Texas? Is that really what he wants to invite? Is that really what we want to see as American citizens? It is most definitely not what any American should want for this country. But it certainly seems clear that this is where the administration wants to go and will continue to go, and we will continue to fight it. I wish I could say that these scenes that we're seeing in Chicago and that we may see in Portland, in San Francisco, and elsewhere, I wish I could say that this was a joke, that this was some movie, that this was another scene, frankly, out of this movie, The Blues Brothers. But no, this is as real and as serious as a heart attack. And if we continue down this road for another 4 years, what will be left of our democracy? If my Republican colleagues in other states continue to go along with this, continue to go along with this rampant lawlessness, this violation of everything that we have come to understand and support in our Constitution, that prevents our own military from being used against our own citizens, if they will not rally against this, when will they finally stand up to this president? When will they finally say that we have reached the point where enough is enough? I certainly hope it is soon, but given the track record of my colleagues here in the Congress, I'm not holding my breath. So thanks for watching tonight's video. We started doing these nightly videos as a way of identifying something really important that happened today or this week, what we should make of it, and how we can fight back. As you can see, I like to include movie clips. If you have any suggestions for other movie clips I should include in future videos, please share them with us. And thank you for following along.